What's that book that you want to shout out, Miss? Before we get into our
go for it.
Andy Cole, Fast Forward, by Andrew Cole. What's he talking about? Football.
And life, and obviously he got that liver disease not long ago. I haven't got to that part yet. But he talks about his time from Arsenal, or before Arsenal, and he was at Lilleshall Academy, through to Arsenal. Talks about his relationship with players, how his mind process was, you know, him and Keegan, him and Fergie. It's a lot of stuff in here, man.
All right.
But it's not, I'll be honest, it's not a Man United centric book.
Just more about the man, as opposed to the clubs that he played for.
Yeah. And like saying when they went to Lilleshall, you guys remember Lilleshall used to be like the English, what do you call that thing in France? Le Fontaine.
Yeah. Bloemfontein.
The academy. Basically went to the English one like that, and come in the middle of the night, on their first night, and start just filling them in as initiation. The man's a year above them.
That sounds like secondary school all over again. Bro. Man's getting filled in by the year above. That's right, man. Keep them boys in line.
Andy Cole, Fast Forward, good book so far. I ain't all the way through it yet. Did a decent bit so far.
Easy.
Yes, good book so far.
Easy.
Especially for any young aspiring footballers, he probably help with the mentality.
All right, cool. Respect. So we're just gonna have a quick conversation, 30-minute conversation about men acting like boys, and we tried to touch on this subject before, but anyone that's seen the film Fences, there's a part in it where he's kind of addressing his son, and then he's like, his son comes up to me. It seems a bit harsh to begin with, but when I was watching it, I watched it back, I was like, you know what? You know, when you look at the situation, you talk about Trump being pardoning the likes of Lil Wayne and what's the other one's name?
Kodak Black.
Kodak and that, right? And obviously there must have been some sort of a petition that was put together for him to pardon those two individuals. It got me thinking about what it actually means to be a man. And also,
just say that again.
Yeah, I couldn't hear you properly.
It got me thinking about what it actually means to be a man, and I'll touch on that side of things in a second, but just drawing it back and just to the Denzel Fences clip. You know, like last time we was talking about responsibility and what that actually means.
Yeah.
Let's take it a bit like deeper, because me and M-Dot were talking and we kind of reached the conclusion, okay, I'll give you my story, right?
Yeah.
So probably about 2013 now, so we're in 2013, and just before that I was like watching sports, from football to basketball to American football, and that's pretty much all I was doing. And at the time, I was going through a difficult period, do you know what I mean, in my own personal relationship, and nothing to do with the wifey or anything like that. It was more about me. So I remember she come to me at one point and she says, "What do you want?" And at that point,
straight up front like that.
Yeah, she kept it 100, and it forced me to kind of look in the mirror. Do you know what I mean? And then I met a brethren of mine, which you all know, you've seen him before, who introduced me to a book called He Emotions. And that book about He Emotions goes into basically how you as a man are supposed to handle certain things from your family, deal with your emotions, teaches you how to communicate, so on and so forth. But essentially what I realized is that I had spent a lot of time, even though I was grown physically, I was still a child mentally. You understand? And then I'm trying to navigate a relationship, and it's like I've still got boy tendencies. So in order for me to kind of overcome, I had to step away from the childish things. It's like that scripture that's in the book, and it says, when I became a man, when I was a child, you spoke as a child, but now you're a man, put away childish things. Yeah,
Yeah,
So I had to realize that, and this is just me personally, you know, so this ain't me, I'm not throwing shots at anybody.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just telling you what I had to do in order to elevate my thinking. So and then I read another book called Reposition Yourself to Prosper. And it talks about the financial aspect. But the point I'm making is, if I'd stayed in that position where I was at that particular time, I probably wouldn't be married today. Right? So by me stepping away from the things that I was doing, because doing those things wasn't encouraging me to elevate, yeah, I was by me stepping away from those things, I was able to say, you know what, I was able to then, all of a sudden my interest changed, and with my interest changing, I was able to govern my family differently, to be a better husband, to be a better father, and not only that, but to teach my kids basic things that we would probably take for granted. For instance, you know, we all talk in this group about financial literacy. Now, I wouldn't have got to that point of financial literacy if I hadn't stepped away from doing those childish things, because to me, that was like, we've all got, she actually says it's my, I used to play a lot of Xbox in it, so she'd say that's my stress box. So when I was kind of peed off, she sees me on the Xbox, she's like, yo, he's obviously going through certain things. But then I had to say to myself, how much time am I giving to that instead of giving to the things that matter to elevate myself? And really, when you think about, you know, men acting like boys, it comes to the point where we have to start looking at ourselves and saying, you know what, are we mature enough to meet our women where they are mentally? Do you understand? Not every woman, because everybody's in different places in their life, but at the same time, I realized that at that particular junction in my life, I wasn't mature enough mentally to relate to my wife. So I had to step away from my own vices, football, sports, and everything else that I was heavily invested in, to bring myself up to a level so that when I do go back to those things, there's more of a balance there. Do you understand? Did you catch that?
You broke up a bit, but I think
you broke up at the end. Then that is.
Hold on.
We did get where you was trying to finish that off.
Yeah.
We did get it, but yeah, just that last little segment, it broke up a bit. But
yeah,
carry on.
So I just said that I had to step away from my own vices so I could level up to meet her where she's at, so I could become a better husband, but also a better father. And by me doing that, as I said, my interest changed, and I was able to, all of a sudden I found, because I forced myself, I found other things more important. And that's where I feel like sometimes we as men, we kind of lack. Do you know what I mean? We always sometimes are like saying, yo, the woman this, the woman that. But at the same time, we have to kind of internalize this and be honest and go, you know what? I need to do this. And in actual fact, she'll probably tell you herself. So this ain't me trying to, you know, brag or anything like that. But by me doing that, it forced me to be, I am now like an avid reader. I will read book after book after book. Do you get me? Just so I can stay ahead of the curve, to then guide my family and reposition them so that they're in a position where, should anything kick off, they understand how to handle certain things, whether it be finance or whether it be, you know, talking to the kids about relationships, even just basically trying to communicate with my own spouse. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, that's just my story, and that's what the question I'm asking is, how do we as men then, how do you see the landscape? Because when I look around, right, I see us a lot, especially in our community. We like we said last time, I think Ace said last time, yeah, it's about raising the next generation. But at the same time, being a man and elevating yourself to that level is more about just that. It goes into, do you understand money management? Are you able to relate and communicate that to the next generation to say to them, look, make sure you got your credit score on point. Make sure if you're going to do a job, you do it properly. You know, what we would call basic things actually isn't basic to us, to a lot of us. Do you understand what I'm saying? Anybody want to chime in?
I get.
Yeah,
No, I get you.
And just to touch on what you were saying, I do agree that I think that, you know, when it comes to elevating yourself to where your woman is or your partner is mentally, sometimes you do have to step away from, like you said, the vices, because otherwise you can find yourself distracted, you know, doing things that you shouldn't be doing or whatever not. And yeah, I do think sometimes it's about stepping away and, you know, reflecting.
Let me just
what she ain't saying and stuff like that. It is a time where, you know, and I can say I've been guilty of those type of things in the past. You know what I mean? Even sometimes today. So, you know, I can totally understand what you're saying, and then touching on the passing down the teaching and stuff like that. You got to be able to show your children, show the younger generation the right things, the money management, you know, simple things like your credit score, like and then not only that, but some people, if you ask somebody what their credit score is, are they gonna know? So you should know, shouldn't you?
I was gonna tag on to what you both more or less said. You know what I think? It is. I think to home in on it, and I think I can speak from a personal perspective. I think to home in on it a bit more is what you said was looking in the mirror. You know what that is? The fear of seeing what is looking back at you. I think that's what it is, because a lot of the times, I can speak for my own self. I think just based on conversations, I think it comes when you put it down to the bare basics. It's what's going to be staring back at yourself. Are you going to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and be confident and happy across the board with what is staring back at you? And until you do that, you're not going to be able to then put things in perspective, put things in place, and, you know, put yourself out of, for one, your comfort zone, so obviously be able to talk to people that you should be talking to, because I think we've all got a habit, me included, I've had to stop in certain aspects of talking to people who either one, ain't for me, or two, ain't the person I should be speaking to in that moment. So it's obviously realizing that as well. And you ain't going to do that until you internalize that. So I think that is one thing that our community, but us as men, struggle to do, based on the fact of, if you count yourself as a real man and you get to a real man age or whatever else, you feel like, yeah, I need to be doing this, blah, 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 blah. The weight's on me. I'm meant to be looking after. It's the load that you then potentially want to take on yourself, etc., etc. And it's then you then trying to force the scenario rather than actually taking the scenarios in themselves as what it should be. If you get me, if you guys understand what I'm saying. So I think that, for one, from my personal experience, is something that us as men struggle to do, you know, based on what we see looking back at us.
You know what I said, Mizo? Do you want to say something?
Yeah, very quickly. I think what we have a habit of doing is always putting the figure back on the women, and sometimes it is the women's fault. We all know that. It's probably 50-50, but there's always an over-reliance to say, I only do this because they're moving like this. When sometimes, you know, we have to take ourselves and look at ourselves and say, you know what, they might be doing this, but if I'm doing everything right, I can be happy with myself.
You know what, Mizzle? I think as well, I think you identified a good point. And I think it comes down to self-esteem, and it's obviously a lot of the times in situations has been broken. So it causes a woman to react in a certain way when situations transpire, that telltale signs that she may have seen historically, and as a result, self-esteem in that regard is quite low. But then we often get in situations where suspicions are maybe investigated, and then there's invalid grounds for concerns, and as opposed to, you know, really and truly just manning up being weak in that area of your life, what we try to do is we try to deflect it. So we almost like we bounce it back on them. Do you get what I'm saying?
Deflection, this is what I'm saying. Yeah, it's not turning it on yourself.
Yeah, and I think historically that's it's tough. It's tough. But going back to something that Natty said earlier, in terms of the stress mechanism as well, I think as you said it, I started to smile because you know, everybody knows, when I'm often stressed with work and wear and tear and whatever else, and trust me, I come home and I switch off totally in my PlayStation from time to time, and a lot of the time I do feel like I think to myself, certain times I'm there and I've been hanging on it for a few hours, and I'm thinking to myself, I've been on this for a while. You know, I feel like I've been wasting my time. I feel
like a waste. Yeah, I know them ones.
It's almost like, all right, stresses and strains of the world and the current climate that we're in. And you know the ones, it's like, what exit have you got, man?
Yeah. Right now it's crazy.
I know that you've said that you managed to progress from progress from the banging on the Xbox to avid reading books and rare tear, but you know them ones, like my job, I do a lot of reading, a lot. Do you get what I'm saying? For me, the enthusiasm and the passion that you said when you said reading, the passion that you showed, it was almost like, I wish I had that, but I can't have that level of passion for reading based on the fact that I do it constantly, a lot all the time within my job, and then outside of my job as well, as part of preparation for my job. Do you get what I'm saying? So based on all of that, I'm thinking to myself, like, and I know I probably have taken the conversation slightly off key because I've looked at more, yes, men historically and men currently and in our community and blah blah blah, we are certain times men masquerading as boys, and me playing the PlayStation is my boy moment, I would say, physically, you know, the ones that's you can see me, that's me being a boy, you know.
But you know what?
But
mentally, that's his escape. That's
my escape. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's not. This ain't a. This is a deep ass. This is a deep tunnel of conversation. Do you get what I'm saying?
Do you think there's a reason? Hold on, Dad. Do you think there's a reason why it takes us a while to find out how to be a man? Oh, there is a reason. I'll be honest with you.
It was never shown to us. It was never shown to us, wasn't it?
That was for
me. Never shown on a level.
Not in my household. You know what I mean? Like, there's people around the family, but you know.
I agree with you, Miss. You know, like, I'll tell you a story. You know, I was, and I understand what you're saying because you're in that teaching element. So obviously, for you to then learn when you're not forced to. You know what I mean? Is a problem. So I completely get it. That's the last thing you want to do is pick up a book. But for me, it was different. So my stress was I would be in that, stuck up corporate world, and then I come out and I just want to chill on the Xbox. But by me doing that at that particular time, it was having a detrimental impact. And what was happening is that my wife's maturing at a faster pace than me. So now
let me just interject there. I'm going to let you carry on. You know, you just said your wife was maturing at a faster level. It's scientifically known already that females mature quicker than us. So if we aren't doing our utmost best to mature and to get to that level all the time, they're gonna get the gap is gonna be much bigger because it's already done that in the DNA already. They mature at a quicker rate than us. So I just wanted to highlight that in that sense, because if we're not doing what we can to keep up with that level, the gap is gonna grow.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's where you got a real woman in your circle.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like me at that point. You got to look at it when I'm saying to her, "Yo," even though I don't talk to her like this, but if I'm moving like,
yo,
if I'm moving like, "Yo, I'm the man," you know what I mean? And when I taught you, reality is, she's looking at me like, "Really? You ain't."
She sees the boy on the Xbox.
You know what I'm saying? So I remember, but as I said, that me forcing myself to come away from that allowed me to mature mentally, and even I think she would say herself, in a lot of ways, you know, we're either on par. She's above me in certain things, or I'm above her in certain things. You know what I'm saying? And you know, it's that old saying, iron sharpens.
You complement each other.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Where you're weak and she's strong. It's a compliment.
I was gonna say, go on.
Right, you're talking about this in the context of a relationship.
No, go on.
Right. So I was saying, what about the people who are not in a relationship?
Well,
so you're saying you only realized because you was in that situation. Now imagine if you weren't. You know, you probably had the kids and everything, but you weren't together. So then you don't have to mature at that level.
Yeah, I hear that. You know what? It's a crazy one because I'm gonna answer it, but I just finished that statement that I was making. But I'm gonna answer that because I understand exactly what you're saying. It's like when I finally came away from that, I understood. We was talking about financial management, right? And you know, like you said, no one taught us how to be men.
Yeah.
Because of me forcing myself to, you know, become interested in other things, all of a sudden I understood, damn, as a man, I need to have a reserve fund, an emergency fund, as we know it, as, you know what I mean? Some call it. I need to have an investment account, 1 or 2 investment accounts. Those things weren't taught to me. They weren't taught to many of us. What I was saying is, when I came away from those things, my own vices, this is what I realized was causing a problem in my life, you know. Remember, I'm not saying this is the case for everybody. When I came away from those things, and I forced myself to become interested in, you know, grown up content then, as some would say, I learned then, damn, as a husband, I need to make sure that we have an emergency fund. I need to make sure we have investment accounts. I need to teach the kids how to manage their money. Now, if I didn't come away from those things, I wouldn't be able to pass on that information. So
you wouldn't be best positioned.
Yeah. So yes, you know, we can say that we weren't taught it, but then we have to ask ourselves, yo, we're the generation before
teaching yourself.
We're the generation before us. Yeah, they struggled. We know that things were difficult at that time. But at some point, surely there must have been that moment where they have to kind of take responsibility. Do you get what I'm saying? And the onus has to be on. Something must have happened. Surely something happened at a particular juncture where a decision was needed, a choice was needed. And maybe they took the wrong choice, which is why many of us born after just kind of had to find out for ourselves. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? But what you're saying is heavy because, yeah, that's me in a relationship having to do that. But this is why the platform is needed, because if you really want a serious woman, bro, now hear the words I'm saying, Don. If you really want a serious woman, bro, a serious woman is looking for a serious man. So you have to say to yourself, you know what? If I'm single today, I'm saying to myself, boy, I want a woman that is educated, that knows what she wants, that can bring something to the table, and is going to also inspire me to do better. Now, in order for me to have that type of to have that desire and to have that as a standard, I have to have elevated my own consciousness.
You have to bring that because a woman like that doesn't want any other man.
And anything less.
And any less than that, she doesn't deserve any less than that. So why would she step up a less when she brings so much?
So Mizzle, I'm not sure how. Yeah, go on. Does that answer your question, Miz? Because I'm like saying I have to develop myself, though. You understand?
Yeah, I just want to hear your view on it. For me, being the one who I've been single, right, and I think the financial part of it, where you was talking about learning how to manage money and stuff, I learned that late 20s, early 30s, bro. You know what I mean? And that was late, but now I'm more on it. I am looking at investments. I'm looking at all these different stuff of what I wanted to set up for the future. I've set up a couple. Still want to do some more, but credit scores and all this stuff, I learned it too late, bro. Like, I'm onto my kids already. They're not really that interested, but I'm gonna keep on.
This is it. This is the responsibility word that comes into play, and it's turning the mirror on yourself, realizing where you're lacking, and thinking, yo, I'm gonna do the utmost I can at this moment where I'm at now to do better for myself in the moment I'm at now, to then give that on to my kids if you have kids, but even more so, just wanting that for yourself anyway, because anybody who you're around, it doesn't have to be kids, it could be a family member, it could be a friend, it could be someone in your passive workplace or whatever else. You should be at a certain level, or trying to get to that certain level, that you can inspire someone in that circle that you're in, someone. Because regardless, you're on this earth for a reason, innit? So regardless of how you look at it, we've all got a responsibility. So then when you're throwing kids into that mix, it's a bigger responsibility, and that word is the key part of it.